That's been my big question of late. How did this all start? It had to start from somebody, somewhere, a higher power, a God that was create a seed for a squash or a seed for an eggplant, an apple tree, and how it all comes together. And it almost seems like a plan to me, that this was God's plan, and He gave it to us to care for and take care. That's, I think, one of the reasons why we were called to do what we do, is to take care of what He has, the gifts He has given us in the nature.
Susan and Bill Loico work the land at the Puentes Community Garden in South Stockton, an underserved area of the city with no grocery stores. It is one of many environmentally related projects the Loicos are immersed in.
Everybody here is from a different part of Stockton, and they all come together with kind of a common purpose. And they bring their kids, and their kids get to see that a tomato comes from a plant, not from the store, and honey comes from bees, and eggs come from chickens, and that whole sense of community is what I really like about this particular project. It's not just about the environment, but it's the social justice aspect of it as well, that we're involved in projects to help those who don't have a voice, maybe. Especially in some of the environmental things relative to the air and to water.
A portion of our community is suffering from because of the degradation of our environment. So somebody has to speak out for the earth, and somebody has to speak out for those that can't speak for themselves. So I think that's what pulls us, calls us to be the voice for the earth and for the people who can't speak for themselves.
Every teaching that the Catholic Church has is love. And that's where coming and doing it through your actions comes into play. Yes, you want to know your teachings, which are love, but it's also living it through your actions as love, showing others in God's love through your words and actions, and living the gospel in your life. And that's the big thing that a lot of people miss these days, is they think it's all politics. Like, what are the church's views on abortion or gay rights and all that stuff? And the church has views on them, but that's not what the church is defined by. That's not what it was built on. It was built on loving others, and that's really what it is.
Amen, amen, I say to you, whoever believes has eternal life.
My mission is really just to evangelize the gospel in whatever I do, and to love what I do the most, and that's really my goal.
Well, the choir has always been my solace. It's been the one thing I do for myself. And music is a happy place to be. It glorifies everything you do. It's like praying twice, as we always say. And it's just an easy way to bring everybody together. It's a happy, you can get everybody started singing and everything else goes away. So it just has to come out all the time.
Every Sunday for the last 60 years, Cecilia has glorified God through music in the church choir. The consummate volunteer, Cecilia is involved in countless church activities.
My faith, my religion, it is my life. It's just what my whole life has always been, just to get up and go and do things, and church has been the main thing that I've always done. My whole life has been around what we do at church. No matter what has happened to me, through all the good times, the bad times, that has been the one thing that has always kept me glued together.
At the end of the day, My faith means that no matter the trials I endure, there's always a purpose, and if I ever have suffering in my life, I'm able to unite that with Christ's suffering, and so grow stronger in my faith.
Spoken like a young man who lost his father at an early age. Peter learned a lot from the deeply religious man who became a priest later in life.
And he would talk about how saints might look at his life and think that he knows nothing about being Catholic. And that always, hearing him say that kind of surprised me, just because I've always looked up to him so much. So for him to say that he has so much more to grow really tells me that I personally have a lot to grow in my faith, a lot to do. You never should be comfortable in your faith. There's always more to do to grow closer with God and Jesus.
What we want to do was honor our precious souls and remind everyone that every life has meaning. We have 4 children. We love children. 2 of our children were born with difficulties, with problems.
They thought we ought to give up.
Yeah. In fact, I hated some of those doctors.
We should let her go. And,
yeah.
And we said no, and 24 hours later she had turned around,
yeah.
and they couldn't believe it, you know?
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah.
And so the Lombardis were inspired to build the Precious Souls Memorial for all children. Joe doing the ironwork.
That's one of those things you can't explain, and I really can say when it was all through and I looked at it and I thought, man, where'd that come from? You know, I had no idea how that happened. And so it was really a wonderful spiritual experience.
And what I found in this, because I've handled the symbols, and people will call and tell me their stories, and I feel privileged to hear their stories. They're just precious, either about abortion, revealing that they had an abortion, or that they've lost grandbabies and they're sharing about that, or they've lost a baby through miscarriage, stillborn. They're amazing stories.
If parents would just love their children,
yeah.
The evil would go away in this world. The love of Christ, if they would do that. But that's where all evil comes from. A lot of kids don't have that love.
He has a very dynamic personality. He can be very strong. He can be very compassionate. He's a visionary. It's so hard to explain a character like him because he's a little bit of everything and a whole lot to everybody.
Monsignor Rocha, who retired this year, was just an 11-year-old boy when he entered the seminary.
He always tells us in his young years that he was a little scrapper, meaning he would fight, no problem. He did his share of little fighting when he was young. He tells the story many times that if I would have not gone into the priesthood, I'd probably be a mafiota or he said be in jail or something, because he said he always had that fighting spirit within him, even as a young child. So probably his parents were very, very happy that he went into the seminary at a very young age. But he's always had that fighting spirit in him, and maybe that is why he has been able to do so much in life, because he doesn't lay down and give up. You know, he's a fighter.
Indeed, Monsignor has been a great motivator and was instrumental in the construction and renovation of many church buildings, most recently the Holy Family Center in Tracy.
He's always looking ahead, taking on the next project, trying to sort out, like he says, he doesn't sleep at night. He's trying to sort out the needs of people, building another church to fill the needs of parishioners, fill the needs of staff. You know, he's always looking ahead, trying to figure out what's the best approach. Not only is he a priest, but he lives his priesthood in all his actions. Yes, he can be a little rebel once in a while, and I think we all have that. But yes, he has a strong passion when it comes to the Eucharist and the people being fed by Christ.
When I come to work, I thank God ahead of time because I know it's going to be a wonderful day, you know, and I'm going to be surprised, and I'll see, you know, His joy through the students and my colleagues. This is my 30-something year of teaching. I also taught in New York City for many years before I came to California. We have to be there for each other. It's about community. Central Catholic High School is about community. We're family. So we want to know about each other's interests and dislikes. You know, I'm not a big fan of sour gummy worms, but they are. So I'll be interested in it for a while, you know. I'll find it. I'll find the wonderful in that day, because it's there. Just got to keep your eyes open. You had a lot of choices. Didn't you have title choices? It's a ministry, and I'm just very grateful God chose me for this ministry, because there's, you know, so many options. And I was in high school in the 70s, and I remember I told two of my English teachers that I wanted to follow in their footsteps because they inspired me so much. And they said, Susan, why? There's so much a woman could do today. It took me back, you know. And I thought about that, and I did think about doing other things, but I knew that I was being called to be in the classroom and to teach as Jesus did, you know, through stories. I'm very lucky, you know, literature is about the human condition, and it's about salvation and mercy. And I get to share that with the students I meet every day.
For a Central Catholic High School student, being in the lively class of Mrs. Dillon is like winning the lottery.
It's always about being in the moment, being aware, and being gracious, and thanking God ahead of time for all that's going to unfold. And I learned that from the Venerable Solanus Casey, that you thank God ahead of time.
God's plan. We are all part of it. Honoree Bill Loico describes it beautifully.
I'm amazed and fascinated by the bees.
Yeah.
And that the bees, with no help from us whatsoever, have the ability to produce a fabulous byproduct that we get from them, and that's the honey. But we're not doing anything for them. There's just flowers out here, and God's provided everything that they need to make gallons and gallons of honey that we then get to partake in and enjoy. And I think that's just a very simple evidence to me of God's presence and His care for all creatures, no matter how small they are, no matter how big they are.